Alright everybody, we're coming back to a project I actually started probably about 13 years ago, and give you a little backstory on it of things like the Raspberry Pi and a lot of the easier, download the thing, set it up, it's all built in a box things didn't exist back then when I started this, and it was actually going fairly well. We took the measurements off of actual arcade cabinets down at our local arcade and did all of the cuts. And the funny thing is actually made the mount for the X arcade stick before it even showed up to the house. I just pulled the dimensions and hoped for the best that it would actually fit when it showed up, but that dictated the width of this thing. But I had started on it, and then probably about a month into it I got really sick for a couple of years, and this has been pushed back, hiding in the back of a shed for probably, yeah, I'd say probably about the last 12 years of the 13 that I started this. But just kind of go through, we have this cut out. I have these pulled out right now so I can get to the stick, because I did fire this up and the ball works, but none of my other controls work. I went through the board, took a look at it, and the chip on it for the keyboard encoder is dead. Ordered one of those, got that sent in, but it sits down in this slot. We have slots cut out for the buttons that are actually back here so they don't get pressed. Cable pass through down on this side, and for the selector switch for that, the monitor, it's actually a Westinghouse monitor if you want to know. This monitor back when it first came out was $500, if you want to realize how old this project started. But we did put some screw holes through to actually hold it in place. I used to have a piece of plexiglass over the top of it that was painted to actually block off everything around. I can't find that. LED lights like this didn't exist back then, so these are actually just fluorescent tubes for it. But one thing about this monitor is it has your standard power connection, had speakers built into it, which back then were still kind of sort of unheard of, but S-Video composite component and an audio in along with VGA and DVI down on the bottom. Right now it's just kind of a hot mess because I put it back together just in a rush, but what we did too is that's the power for the marquee lights that I need to get a new marquee made because I had one for that, can't find that either. But this actually is the power button for the computer that's down in there. These two wires actually run all the way down, and inside of the case you can sort of see them right here, and they go into the front for power on the board into this HP desktop, which is actually on a mount. Go around to the back side of the whole thing. As you can see, the cable's a mess. Like I said, I just plugged it in real quick because I wanted to test it out. But it's an old HP desktop, 320 gig hard drive, was absolutely massive back then. But it's permanently mounted in here. The subwoofer for audio is mounted in, power supply for the desktop. Our speakers are actually just held in with some straps through the holes on the top. The entire thing is 3/4 inch MDF and 2x4s. Put a couple vent holes in the top. The back panel is actually taken off right now. That's what this is sitting up top. Power cord for going through the back of this whole thing. What you'll see on the inside is this 2x4 and this 2x4 over here are actually two of the most important pieces of this whole thing, because it stops the top from sliding forward. And I know it might be kind of hard to see, but this line right here, if you notice, everything is mounted in the top of the cabinet, and that's because this whole thing was built in two pieces to where you can actually just remove the top if you wanted to, and take it out to your backyard, or if you needed to move it somewhere else, you just pull the top off and you cut the weight of this thing in half, because this does weigh about a good 350 pounds altogether, so it's a little bit more manageable with one person. When you cut the weight down on it, I'm going to go ahead and shove these back into their respective holes. And we have these boards cut for the angling of the screen a little bit better. Sorry about the shaky camera, but we had our audio controls just out the side. This was a temporary thing for turning it on and off, and volume. Down on the front, angled the two front pieces because I thought it'd be kind of cool to do an angled front piece, because I'd never really seen that before. This was just put on the front when it got shoved back in the shed, just to keep stuff from falling in. But the front door fits fairly flush. We cut an aluminum bar. It's on just a cabinet hinge going all the way down, and it's been grooved out so everything fits in there quite nicely. Bottom plate comes out. This shelf also comes out, but way up in the back. And eventually we'll clean all these wires up. We wired in 6 plugs, so everything can get plugged in. So the only thing that's actually attached to the bottom is the power. So you can literally just unplug everything from that. Power stays in the bottom, and everything else goes up top. But also, with that middle shelf being removable, the power in the back, the bottom half of this was sized to actually fit a mini fridge, thus a lot of the venting that is actually up in the top. It's kind of a project that I want to get back to and get started back up, finish the speaker grills, get a new marquee going, new thing around the actual monitor. Probably going to keep that monitor just because I really like it. It works well in this machine, and it's fairly easy to turn on and off. But once your opinions, stay with the desktop, because honestly it runs Atomic FE. If you don't know what that front end is, it was a really good one back in the day. But probably gonna end up changing that out, maybe over to Arcade Legends, or switch the entire thing over to a Raspberry Pi. But let me know your thoughts on whether to keep with the Windows system, switch it over to Linux, or just go straight to a Raspberry Pi or one of the Odroid consoles on that. Anyways, also got some caster wheels to get to the bottom, and if we do end up swapping to a Raspberry Pi, I have some upgrades for the X-Arcade stick, and you will see what those are in a future video if that is your options. But really value your all's opinions on where I should go with this project, and if I should keep it the way that it is right now, or if we should go a different direction as far as the PC goes. Anyways, like I said, thanks for stopping in. Have a good night. Like, subscribe, share, leave your comments down below.